And now we're happily underwater again. So Erika, where she's most happiest. This is Dr. Erika Woolsey. She is a underwater ecologist focusing in coral reefs and an innovator and CEO of The Hydrous, which is a nonprofit that's looking to build ocean empathy and really open access to oceans to everyone, even if you're not near water. So how could you do that?
First of all, hi, Wes.
Hi, good morning.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Well, there are a lot of ways we can increase access to our ocean environment. And part of that is through emerging technology. And I've actually had the great privilege of working with the fine folks at Lenovo to make that possible, because we do have all these scalable emerging technologies at our disposal that are becoming more and more accessible and affordable, that can recreate what it's like to be underwater and develop that ocean connection.
And ocean connection is really what you're focused on, is, you know, connecting humans with the ocean and the ocean with humans, and really powering that empathy for the creatures in the ocean itself, which is a huge thing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, on Valentine's Day, what better day to think about how love takes many forms, not just romantic love. We can also love our family. We can love the planet that sustains us, and we can love these beautiful and threatened ocean ecosystems that basically support all life on this planet.
Which you have to love that, don't you?
Gotta love breathing, gotta love eating.
Yeah, I actually really find that I do like breathing these days. So I think I'm going to try and work to help protect that. And I imagine that you're going to have a presentation that'll show us how to do that.
Yes, I will. And I also just want to thank you, Meridian Treehouse, all the work that you and Joe Grabowski with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants have done for this Women Blaze Trail Festival, in terms of amplifying and supporting women in science, is really fabulous. It's a beautiful thing. So thank you for that.
Well, I'm happy to be here supporting all of these amazing scientists and explorers and innovators and every other hyphenate that we can think of, because there are some really incredibly talented people who have joined us this weekend. And I have to say a big thank you to Joe and Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants for having me and Meridian Treehouse be a part of the fun. So really, I can't think of a better way to show some love on a Valentine's Day weekend than to celebrate you and, was it 50 other amazing women? So I'm happy to be here. This is my best Valentine I've had in a while. So I'm excited. And I get to spend it with you. So it looks like we've got that. Looks like we've got your presentation ready and queued up. So I'm going to bring that up for you. Looks like we're going to see some really amazing stuff right off the bat. We've already got someone in a VR headset. So
that's right. So today I want to talk about 21st century mermaids and explain what I mean by that, as well as the great work that my team at the Hydrous is doing. And basically my background, as you pointed out, Wes, is I'm a marine biologist with a specialty in coral reefs. I also lead a nonprofit organization called the Hydrous. I'm executive producer of the new podcast, 21st Century Mermaids, along with my amazing co-executive producer, which I'll tell you more about in a sec. I'm also a visiting scholar and lecturer at Stanford University, particularly with the virtual Human Interaction Lab. And I get to be a National Geographic Explorer and hang out with really cool people like you, Wes, all the time. So just a little bit of background and context. You may have heard of Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. And essentially there are 17 intertwined goals that are meant to globally help achieve a better and more sustainable future for everyone on this planet. And these have been developed and designed by the United Nations and were first introduced in 2015. And a lot of these goals, the aim is to achieve them by 2030. And the two that I really am focusing on with my work and the work of my team are Goal 5, which is all about achieving gender equality and empowering women and girls. And this festival is a great part of that, especially following the International Day of Women and Girls in Science. And then we have Goal 14, which is all about life below water and sustainably managing and protecting marine resources in the ocean. And if you have a look at all of these other goals, you can imagine that they're very intertwined. So the goals 5 and 14 are very connected to goals 4, quality education, climate action, goal 13, and so on and so forth. So definitely a really wonderful, as it has been described, blueprint for how we can make positive change in the world for people and for ocean ecosystems. And this overlap was explained and covered very nicely for World Oceans Day of 2019. So every June 8th is World Ocean Day, and June is World Oceans Month. And just a couple years ago, the theme of World Oceans Day was gender in the ocean. And it turns out there are a lot of very clear overlaps. For instance, women are known to be amazing local advocates for marine protection and have demonstrated exceptional leadership. And there's also issues of, though women constitute about half of the workforce in ocean spaces, they earn far less than their male counterparts. And they also tend to be more vulnerable to natural disasters and disturbances. And there has yet to be parity achieved in leadership positions, especially regarding policy. So these are all very important challenges to overcome. And another reason all of this work is so timely is that this year, just now, we're launching, or the United Nations is launching the Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. And it starts this year in 2021 and goes to 2030. If you remember, the Sustainable Development Goals are aimed to be achieved by that year. And essentially this whole decade is focused on highlighting the science we need for the ocean we want. And some of the bigger goals are to achieve universal ocean literacy, to overcome barriers in gender equality, as well as creating an inspiring and engaging ocean so that we all understand our impact on the ocean and the ocean's impact on us. So because of that, because of all of this great stuff that's happening right now, I connected with these two amazing women, Maria Soleibianco, who's based in Italy and is a marine conservation expert and focuses on policy in the Mediterranean, leading a nonprofit organization called World Rise, as well as Dani Washington, who is a marine scientist and incredible TV presenter. She's presented a number of science shows. And me, and together we've, with support from the Baum Foundation, we've developed this concept of 21st century mermaids. So thinking about modern day mermaids that are making a difference in ocean science and conservation. And so we've started a podcast that launches actually a week from today. So here's a fun preview of our upcoming guests, as drawn by the incredible artist Amy Snow. And essentially, we have the goal of having a mermaid on every coastline. And so right now we have, of course, Dani and Maria Sole, my co-executive producers, and Dani is the host on this podcast. And 3 of the other mermaids that we'll be presenting include Joshina Nagaya, who's a marine conservationist based both in California and works a lot in her home country of Mauritius, and Grace Young, who is an ocean engineer and amazing underwater explorer, and Melissa Cristina Marquez, who is a shark researcher based in Mexico. So I'm really excited to be a part of this project and to have this incredible network of women and modern day mermaids. Definitely follow us on Twitter and Instagram at XXI Mermaids. We will launch our first episode a week from today, 2/21/21. So to come back a little bit to what the Hydrous is doing, and the Hydrous is the nonprofit that I work with and lead and have an incredible team there that are devoted to these these concepts of ocean access. And so the mission of the Hydrous is to create what we like to call open access oceans so that all people can explore, understand, and engage with marine environments which are severely threatened by climate change and human impacts. And as you notice, a lot of these themes tie into the SDGs as well as the goals and objectives of the decade of ocean science for sustainable development. And something that the Hydra started doing and became known for is creating 3D models of coral reefs around the world. And so here's an example of a 3D printed table coral from the Maldives that was turned into a digital model through a process called photogrammetry, where the coral itself wasn't damaged or disturbed, but it was recreated through technology. And we have a bunch of digital 3D models that are available open access on our Sketchfab account, and people have been using these tools as a way to share coral reef environments. They're very popular with educators and artists and animators. So definitely check those out. Those are a lot of fun to play with, and you can even 3D print them. Here's some examples of our 3D printed coral models that we've actually painted with thermochromic paint so that when you put them in warm water, they turn white, which is a wonderful way to visualize the phenomenon of coral bleaching, which is what happens when corals experience higher than normal ocean temperatures. And this is all part of this really cool project my team has been working on creating these ocean education kits supported originally by National Geographic. And so keep an eye out, follow us, and stay posted on these really wonderful learning resources that we've been developing for a couple years. And it's filled with hands-on science-based learning activities, and even includes virtual reality. So we've also partnered with the Smithsonian, the Digitization Program Office, and the National Museum of Natural History to help them curate these digital models of all of these incredible specimens that are in drawers or on shelves, but are now open access, and anyone can view and engage with them. So here's an example of a specimen that's nearly 150 years old, and it's also a holotype, so it's the specimen that represents the whole species. There's also a really fun AR feature, which stands for augmented reality, where you can take these models and basically put them in your living room or put them in the world around you and interact with them in that way. So if you go to this website, 3d.si.edu/corals, there's a lot of ways that you can play and interact. Another thing we've really taken to is the idea of immersive media. So here's an example of a 360 still photosphere, and it follows a lot of the same methodology of the Catlin Seaview survey, which has been a real inspiration for creating these immersive experiences. And we've created an underwater 360-degree film with a very special camera called the Virtual 2. So here I am on the left. Rick Miskiv, our incredible underwater photographer and videographer, is controlling the Virtual 2 while we swim with fish and manta rays. It was an absolutely incredible experience. And because we have this beautiful camera, which is basically 13 black magic cameras mounted in an underwater housing, you get to look in all directions when you view the footage, because we could stitch it together. Really high quality. It is even stereoscopic, so it has the illusion of 3D when you go diving. So here's a great image of Rick with the Virtual 2 swimming through the reefs of Palau while we see some Moorish idols schooling before spawning off the reef. And here's another clip of just what you might see in the immersive experience, but of course this is two-dimensional, so it's hard to replicate. And because it's Valentine's Day, I really wanted to share one of the cool things about VR is you can help people experience things that they don't often get to experience. And one of them is this incredible natural phenomenon of coral spawning. And so again, this 2D still frame doesn't do it justice, but essentially on the Great Barrier Reef, for instance, where I did a lot of my spawning work when I was doing my PhD, many of the corals on the reef would spawn once per year over the course of just a few nights after the sun sets, after the full moon. It's very magical, and the coral colonies release egg bundles filled with egg and sperm that then mix in the water, and they float up to the surface to cross-fertilize and turn into young new corals that will settle back down on the reef. But the spawning event is just absolutely incredible. It's nighttime, you're surrounded by basically like pink and orange and red orbs that are flowing up in the moonlight, and fish are coming around feeding, and it's absolutely incredible. And because it's really hard to film, considering it's at night and it's hard to experience all around you, VR is a really fun way that you can swim during coral spawning. So our film called Immerse has been doing really well, and we've been able to share it with many people and lead virtual dives. Those headsets you see on those children in the classroom are basically, they're VR headsets. They're head-mounted displays where if you turn your head, you can, see something else behind you. So it's truly immersive, and it occludes your vision. So it's not like AR. And Immerse has been winning awards and been shown at film festivals, and has been very well received. It has, with Immerse, we've led nearly 1 million virtual dives, which is one of our goals, because we want to take millions of people on virtual dives to connect with the ocean. And we've been able to do that not only in classrooms and online platforms, but also presenting at, this is all pre-COVID, I hope you can guess, at the National Geographic VR Theater, which is something that our friend Wes here actually created. And so it was such a privilege to be able to stand on stage and live narrate these virtual dives while hundreds of people went diving on the reef with me. Plus, we've been able to share it on National Geographic's YouTube channel. So if you search for Journey into the Deep Sea, and I should also say that we don't go that deep, so it might be named something else, but we stay within about 20 meters. And we have nearly 500,000 views there, and you can view this on your browser and sort of click and drag to get the 360 effect, or I can show you at the end of this, if we have time, how to go on a virtual dive using your smartphone or a cardboard viewer. And so the extension of this work is, all right, we are able to use scalable technologies to bring more people to the ocean. But what does it actually do? Is it doing what we think that it's doing? And so some big research questions we have is like, all right, how is this affecting, say, ocean literacy or science understanding? What about those feelings of empathy and self-efficacy in terms of feeling connected to something and driven to change your behavior when it comes to ocean protection and climate change? And so the Hydrous is partnering with the Virtual Human Interaction Lab at Stanford, as well as Htc and Horizon Productions, in some NSF supported research to answer these questions, because we really want to know what the effects are. And we have seen from the Virtual Human Interaction Lab and other VR labs around the world that there is a relationship between VR and learning and empathy. And so we're really interested to see what it can do for ocean connection, even more so than what we know. And so with Htc support, we're going to be able to have it more interactive, where students can join a virtual dive, but not just join the virtual dive, actually interact and learn how to be a scientist. For instance, they might be swimming with the manta ray, and they'll have to identify, based on the markings on their belly, which manta is it. And that's actually how scientists track manta rays, rather than always using physical tagging devices. So all this work wouldn't be possible to do alone. And so I just want to thank all of our partners and everyone that makes it possible to share the ocean and connect with others and amplify voices and connection. So Wes, I'll let you decide whether we have time for a virtual dive or we can go to questions.
I'm ready for a virtual dive.
Wonderful.
What does a virtual dive take?
Oh, it'll just take a couple minutes to explain and set up. The dive itself is 9 minutes, so I recommend people can do it on their own another time.
Right. Well, I've got my gear ready. I mean, not that everyone needs this gear, because you can do it without the headset, right?
Exactly. And so if you have a smartphone or a smart device like an iPad, you can use the camera app or a QR reader And so I hope you also have the YouTube app downloaded. So if you don't, just get the YouTube app downloaded, and all you need is that smart device. But if you happen to have a cardboard viewer like this, which is where you would put your phone in, even better. However, you can still have an immersive experience either way. So this is a QR code on a manta ray. And as I hinted earlier, the unique markings on manta ray bellies are unique for each individual, like fingerprints or like a QR code. So if you just take your camera, open your camera app, point it at the QR code, a link to YouTube should open. And once you're in there, you're actually able to make it full screen, and you can drag with your finger to get the 360 effect, or you can move your camera around to see all around you while you're underwater. And if you do have a cardboard viewer, which is something that is pretty affordable, or you can even make one yourself, there is a special icon, if you see in the diagram on the screen here, where if you press it, it turns split screen, then you turn it sideways and can put it in the viewer and view it like that. So there are a number of ways you can do that. And this QR code is also available on the Hydrous website. So check it out, and please go diving with me and take your friends diving.
We're going to leave that up a little bit longer, just so that way people, oh, I hit it too soon. I'm learning all the ways I can set up the cameras on this really quick. So we're going to leave this up for a little bit longer, and we'll ask some questions. That way if people join in or want to go diving, they've got some queue up for that. So I have to ask, we always get the question from the comments is, so what is your favorite type of animal? Sea animal. And it's got to be, we're going to go ocean animal, because this is all about oceans and underwater empathy. So what's your favorite animal? We'll get that out of the way. Some more hard-hitting questions.
I feel like there's so many categories. So if I was to go with a coral, which is my area of expertise, I really like Goniastria favalis, because it has a really unique spawning method where the eggs are negatively buoyant in mucus, and then they have this like perfectly timed spawning event. And so I was really appreciative because they were so easy to work with. Wow. Another invertebrate I really like are nudibranchs. So if you haven't heard of nudibranchs, Google it. Nudibranch. They're so colorful and so fun and so fascinating and so cool. There's also mantis shrimp, are unbelievable. And there's this really great comic strip, The Oatmeal. So if you Google The Oatmeal mantis shrimp, you will get the best story.
Are those the ones that punch really hard and really fast or something?
They punch really hard. They're incredibly colorful. They dominate the reef. They're just these little.
Okay, I see why you might like them. I feel like they're colorful, like very. I could see that. No, and I feel like it's fitting on Valentine's Day to where I ask you, what animal do you love? You give me like 5 or 6. We can't narrow it down.
I have so many, and if we had more time, I would go up all the way to whale sharks.
So I do have to ask, though, with the immersive technology that you're working with, what area of research are you most excited about? Because you kind of teed up that you're going to be doing something with Stanford. What area are you most excited about when it comes to immersive technology?
Great question. Well, also, Wes, you know better than anyone how difficult it can be to do virtual facilitation and set up all these incredible networks. And I just am so in awe of what you can accomplish. And with these experiences, I'm always so interested in what the effects actually are. And because it's sort of a new, exciting, innovative space, we don't have a lot of evidence or long-term data to understand what it's actually doing, especially in the field of marine science and conservation. And so I'm really excited to work with my incredibly talented team at Stanford. So Anna Carolina Mueller-Perez, as well as Jeremy Balinson, on actually measuring these things. And we have these tools that we can measure empathy, and we can measure self-efficacy, and we can measure ocean literacy, especially with our help from Dr. Geraldine Falville, who's an expert in ocean literacy. So I feel very lucky to be part of this incredible team that can answer these questions.
Well, and that's great. And that's one big thing I think I've noticed throughout the 3 days here is that it's not just one person that's doing everything. It's always a big team that's working together to create new science and great connection. So I'm glad to hear that you've got such a great team working on this next step. So, because I feel like we could talk about immersive, like everything for a while here. But what other ways can anyone who wants to connect with the ocean connect with them if maybe immersive's not for them? Are there other tips or other resources that might be available for them? They want to connect and engage with the ocean.
I love that. There are a lot of ways, though some of the best advice I ever heard or received is from the late Professor Ruth Gates, who was an incredible just figure in marine science. And she also narrates part of our film Immerse. And she said, find your nearest network and join it. Because nobody can save the ocean alone. Nobody can conduct science alone, or why would you want to? And regardless of where you are in the world, there are going to be local communities or even online communities where you can talk to people about ocean experiences, share your ocean story. Even if you can't get to the ocean or you're not a diver, there are so many ways that we're connected. And even thinking about things like using your power as a citizen and a consumer to choose sustainable seafood or support climate action. There are so many things all of us can do based on your abilities and what you care about. None of this is prescriptive. We all need to use our own powers and passions to make these decisions on our own. But talk to people. And I always like to say the key to networking is sincerity. And if you keep doing what you love to do and what you're good at, the right people will find you and you'll find the right people.
That is incredible advice, and one that I've definitely seen firsthand working with you on stuff with the Hydrous and with National Geographic. So that's a great example. And I feel like, too, I got to say, everything ends up in the ocean. So maybe if oceans aren't exactly what you're interested in, fresh water, water systems and everything like that, I feel is a great way to get engaged if you aren't near the ocean.
Absolutely. And definitely check out the Hydrous website. We have some incredible resources and guidelines for engaging with the ocean or learning about the ocean. And check out 21st Century Mermaids for sure. That's going to be a really wonderful conversation about being innovative to support women in ocean science. And please check out the United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. There are so many different initiatives and organizations that are doing great work everywhere in the world.
Well, and that's a great way to wrap up and end, a great conversation about the oceans, open access oceans and ocean empathy, just so many great things. And you've left us with ways to get involved and engage. So thank you for that, Dr. Erika Woolsey.
Thank you so much, Wesley Delavola. It's always a pleasure speaking with you and working with you.
It was a great way to spend a good half hour of my Valentine's Day. And
I love you, friend.
Until we chat again.